my comments.
Thank you. Next, Sri Jayant Chaudhary. Jayant, your time is up to 3:30.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I stand to speak on the National Green Tribunal Bill. The very usage of the word green in the name of the tribunal, which seems perhaps is to convey a strong message that the tribunal, the ministry and the government is here to protect the environment and to address the wrongs, to adjust our nation's growth trajectory, to be well attuned to the need for equity, sustainable development and environmental consciousness. So I welcome the usage of the word green, especially because in our country we've seen, as a developing country, largely rules, procedures, laws related to environment have been given consideration only in passing. I read that the minister himself had recently commented on the high rate of environmental clearances that are granted in our country. And there are so many examples that one could give of political will and industrial might coming together and making institutions that are meant to protect the environment appear as mere bystanders. You have what's happened in UP with acres and acres of erstwhile green areas being converted into self-serving, concretized memorials and parks. You have the proposal in Andhra Pradesh of conversion of reserve forest area into a memorial. Today's paper I read about 70,000 trees being felled in Ghaziabad's lone forest area, according to a report by the Ministry of Environment. So if you listen to some quarters, it's actually said that MOE should be granted MOEC, which is Ministry of Environmental Clearances. In that light, I think there is a need for a redressal mechanism which is accessible to the common man. And also we must, give certain attention to the legislation that is already there, to the institutions that have already been created in this space. Previously, members have commented on NEAA and NET. They've really been like mythical Yeti and unicorn because they've been on paper, but they've not been there at institutions. About the NEAA, there was an RTI activist who found out that none of the members actually did any site visits. They went to Shirdi and Banaras on religious tourism, nothing to do with any investigations they were actually carrying out. So given that experience, we do acknowledge the need for a redressal mechanism, but then the question does arise that where previously we have failed, how will this new act signify a change in regime, a change in the thought regime, if I may say so. I would also like to point out, given the experience of NET, that, and also recently a publication came out with an article on this issue, that several acts that are enacted by Parliament, there are several delays that happen and they're not being notified. In fact, since 2004, 3 legislations passed by Parliament have not been notified, and they're also selective. In the PNGRB Act, for instance, there was selective notification. In the Food Safety Act,
there was selective notification done by the ministry. So therefore, in the section 1, subsection 2, that's standard practice now, to leave it to the discretion of the central government. When will the act come into force? But I would urge the minister, he's really serious about, he wants these tribunals to see the light of day. Why not create a challenge for himself and for the ministry and set a time limit by when this act will come into force? About the reach and scope of this tribunal, prior to me, several members have voiced their doubts. I think I'm in agreement with most of the issues that have been raised about the community at large being affected, about substantial doubts about the use of words like substantial in the law, which will perhaps restrict the application and the reach of the tribunals to a lot of people, especially individuals. The preamble of this bill states about the need to protect the right to life as enshrined in the Constitution of India. But at the same time, we're restricting individuals from approaching the tribunals. So that's a big question mark. Also, the composition of the tribunal, the point has been made again and again, but I'll just like join the list of people. The requirement that, you made a point in the bill that people with administrative experience of 15 years and up to 5 years in dealing with environmental matters in central or state government or in a reputed national or state government institution can also be expert members. It will be a real magic act if you can pull them out of the hat, because I can't think of any real state level or central level,
institutions that have really upheld what's needed, the laws of the land for the protection of environment. So where are you going to get these capable administrators? Because it's actually been their culpability, the lack of a strong political will and administrative capabilities that we are actually today debating on the need for a tribunal. Also, the definition of a aggrieved person, it includes people who have not been given clearances. Of course, the laws of natural justice do mean that all parties should get a hearing. But when there is, typically a poor person who's an affected party, and on the other hand, you have a big corporate house, and if you're letting both of them approach the tribunal, I'm afraid that most of the time the tribunal is going to spend on listening to perpetrators of crimes rather than the aggrieved parties. Also, sir, the point has been made again, I'm going to repeat it, about the penalties that can be imposed. There is no provision in the law about the right of the tribunal to revoke licenses, to take away clearances that have been granted. So in most cases, especially for corporates, big money, 25 crores, the economic benefits that will trickle down from willful contravention of law will far outstrip any penalties that could be imposed on them. Sir, I'm aware of the time shortage, and in the end I'll just state that the meek shall inherit the earth, but whatever's left of it after the greedy are done. The water's getting polluted, forests are diminishing, our food chain is getting polluted. And here the government has a unique opportunity to create institutions, systems, processes, rules and laws which can actually lead to a change in our growth pattern and make it one that enables sustainable development. We have the shame and agony of Bhopal in our nation's history. 1.2 lakh people are still suffering from ailments because of exposure that they suffered. And that experience also shows us the varying corporate response to such tragedies. Dow, they bought Union Carbide 2001, and asbestos workers in Texas were given $2.2 billion in aid. And that same company till today says that we have no culpability, no obligation for Bhopal gas tragedy victims. So therefore, any legislation in the environmental space to end must...
Jayant, you have half a minute, otherwise you will have to be on your legs for a long time.
I'm ending, sir. Any legislation in the environmental space must pass the litmus test and must categorically state and mean that the main objective of that law should be that incidents and tragedies like Bhopal do not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honourable members have made a number of important suggestions. I will take note of them, even though they may not be part of the official amendments. I have a completely open mind on this issue, and I will not hesitate to actually withdraw certain sections. I am sensitive to the concern that has been expressed that we are giving in this law a window for those whose clearances have been rejected to come back and have it reviewed. I assure the honourable members, when I reply, I will revisit this section, and if need be, I will withdraw this section. So please be understood.
Thank you. Now we move on to the private members' business. Item number 17, Sri Vijay Bahadur C.
Sir, I beg to move that this House do agree with the 6th report of the Committee on Private Members' Bills and resolutions presented to the House on 20th of April 2010.
Now, the question is that the House do agree with the report, the 6th report of the Committee on Private Members'